Hi, my name is Debbie Lancaster and I am your instructor for environmental science. Please call me Debbie. So that we'll get that out of the way first off. You don't need to call me Dr. Lancaster or anything like that. Debbie will be fine. So we're going to look at Canvas for a second just to go over a few things. So I've set this up on student view. So if you have your Canvas homepage, this is the homepage, set up where you can see recent activities, which is what I do. Now, you have multiple choices. I like to use recent activity because notice, to do. So you have these activities that will be due over the next week or couple of weeks. Okay, so this is a nice feature to use. Then notice I'm going over here and I'm going to modules. In modules, you will find notes and study guides, sometimes other information that I think might be helpful to you in videos. I have 3 different classes, so I'm not going to do 3 different PowerPoints or anything like that, but I will use other information. But just for example, so week 0 or quiz 0. I'm going to open that, and there are notes, and at the end of the notes, whoops, let me scroll down some more. You will find the study guide for quiz 0. Okay, we'll come back to quiz 0 in a moment, but the notes and the study guide. Now I'm going back over to modules, and I'm going to backtrack to the module which you'll be using to access this video that has what is called the syllabus. So I want you to be sure and look this over. Make sure you have access to it. Not only does it explain just general information about the class, and then our outcomes and policies, but there are some directions as well. You can download this to make it easier to view, and in fact you can change the font. You can do whatever you would like once you download it. Okay, so back to modules. So I will be adding more notes as I get them ready, and I will look for some other materials that I think cover the same information in a way that might be helpful to you if you start struggling with the notes. You can also ask me questions. You can send me questions. If we can FaceTime, we can do whatever it takes for me to help you with the material, okay? So you will find information about my access as far as you having access to me in what is called the syllabus. Okay, now, so we've looked at home, we've looked at modules. Let's look at assignments. So in the assignments, you will find, up here in the right, you can show by date or show by type. Because I work on these, I always show by type, but you might prefer to show by date so that you can keep up with due dates, which are also in your syllabus. Okay, so this first week, everything is extra credit. So there's a quiz part 1, a quiz part 2, and an activity to give you an idea of what these weekly activities will look like. So I'm going to click on this. You won't see anything. You know why? Because if you look, there's, where is it? This quiz is locked until, and it should be 9 a.m., so I'm going to need to go in and fix that, but it's locked until 9 a.m., so you cannot open it. Only the quizzes are locked. Everything else will be open as soon as I get them into the assignments tab. So notice that it's available until, okay? So you can see that it would be, in fact, I'm going to change this, the 9 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. This quiz will be online. There'll be 40 points worth of questions, and they will be 2-point questions, 8 multiple choice, 6 true false, and 6 fill in the blank. In addition, I will have your extra credit. You'll be able to answer 1 extra credit. Okay, so that's quiz part 1. So I'm going to go back to assignments. And quiz part 2, where quiz part 1 is a closed book, closed notes, closed computer. You're supposed to take it as if we were in the classroom and I was standing there watching you to make sure you weren't quote-unquote cheating. But part 2, you'll be able to access your notes, the internet, whatever you need, okay? So this one will also not be available. And look, it's locked until 9 a.m. and it too will be due on Fridays at 11:59 p.m. Okay? So, going back, this section is different because these are your extra credit opportunities. In fact, I need to change that name where it will say extra credit. I just can't do it in the student view. You have pre and post course self-assessments as far as your knowledge about some of the material that we'll be covering. So you can see that I have the pre-course due January the 9th at 11:59 p.m., but I am taking it until the 15th. Okay, so when you see dates like this, due is the due date, and available until is when you no longer would be able to upload an assignment. So that's something that I will use, in fact, on your discussions, your activities in a different way. And then I've gone on and put in all the weekly quiz ones, okay? So again, not available, and these I've got 12 a.m.s and 9 a.m.s mixed. I'll change those all to 9 a.m.s now that I'm looking at them. I see I need to do that. And the same thing with the weekly quizzes part 2. One of the things I want you to notice is I don't know how well you can see this, but I'm going to drop the 2 lowest scores. Okay? So if you miss one quiz, I will just count it as a 0, as a dropped quiz. If you get to the point where you miss 2, if you would like, you can either drop it or have a makeup. Okay, so that's important to remember, and that's also in the syllabus. I drop the 2 lowest of the part 2s. Now I've started working on the activities. As you can see, I'm not finished, because there will be 20, I believe, of these. 2 for each week. So these are for the first week. And available, okay, so due. I'm using these dates a little differently. The due date is when you have your initial post turned in. I'll explain that in a minute. The available until date is when the completed assignment is turned in. Now these are set up as discussions. So the first due date is for your initial post that you do on your own, and you cannot see anybody else's until you post yours. Then you have time to work on your responses and your final conclusion. So let's click on this one that's finished, because the other one's not. Oh, it may be. Okay. So general directions for these weekly activities. These are taking the place of preparation for lecture classes and the lecture classes, okay? So you get to dig into certain topics a little more deeply, and it should help you on the quiz that will be on Friday of each week. Okay, so the first part is your initial post. It's your preparation, okay? And then the second part is your discussion and your final conclusions. So let's look. Preparation for activity 1. Resources. So you read these papers. They're short. I purposefully am looking for short papers for you to read because I want to be respectful of your time. Okay, but if we were in a face-to-face class, I would ask you to read these over as well before you came to class. Now, notice it says for the initial post, it's due by, and I believe this activity, the first activity of the week will be Monday. My goal is to be ahead of you with these so that if Mondays are not good days for you to sit down and do an assignment, then maybe Saturday or Sunday. Whatever works for you. I want to, again, be respectful of your time constraints, all right? So it looks scary because it looks like there's a lot. But really, these are like one-page readings. And what you're looking at here are different biomes, 4 different biomes. And then it says, for each biome, record the relative amount of precipitation, and that would be a lot, a medium amount, or very little, and whether or not it's seasonal, relative temperatures, kind of the same thing. Looks like I left out the end of my parentheses. 2 plants, 2 animals, and 2 negative impacts. Upload the recorded information from number 2 as your initial post. So that would be due on Monday, because you would be coming to class on Monday if we had face-to-face. Then, after you have posted, you are set up in groups. Does it show the groups? You are set up in groups. So after you have posted, you can start working on the second part as long as your group mates have posted. Okay, and I let the computer generate the groups. And each week I'm going to let the computer generate new groups. So you'll be switching groups each week. But read over your group members' information about the 4 biomes. Focus on the environmental issues. Use the answers as your starting off part for your discussion. Each one of you will then put 2 posts in as participation in the discussion. Because we can't be in a face-to-face class, we're doing this online. Then you will write your brief summary. So how many parts minimum to get your points? Your initial post turned in on time. Your 2 parts for the discussion, and your brief summary about what you learned at the very end. Okay? So one of the things I do is, being obsessive compulsive, I repeat. So this pattern will repeat. So for the second activity of the week, it's due on Wednesday. Again, it'll be available earlier. So if you need to work on it earlier, you can. Feel free to do that. And then you get your initial post in by Wednesday, and I have it set up on Friday to finish the completed assignment. And most of my due dates, in fact, I think they're all set up for 11:59. So we're running out of time. I wanted to keep this brief, again, appreciating your time. So finally, so activities, there's going to be a lot of these activities, okay? A whole bunch of them. In addition, there'll be essays, and you'll have 1 a week, and they'll be related to what we're covering. They'll be short. Again, understanding your time. And then a final reflection instead of a final, which I will get up pretty soon. So basically every week, a quiz in 2 parts, 2 activities, and 1 essay. No big project, just weekly repeats of those 5 items. And then at the end, instead of a final reflection. Now, when I go back to the dashboard, we've looked at home, we've looked at assignments, we've looked at modules. I'm not going to click on grades, but you'll be able to keep up with your grades. People I've kept in here because I use that to set up groups, and you can also check on people. Discussions and quizzes you won't need to click on. Everything you'll be able to access from the assignments. And finally, you'll have an inbox. I'll send you messages there, and you can ask me questions or send me messages. You can also attach documents if something happens to be late and we've discussed that